Welcome to Journey Through the Gate, the Paranormal Portal podcast, as we delve into the many questions and wonders brought on by the supernatural experience. What's on the other side of the gate? Let's find out together. Hello, everybody. Welcome in, gatekeepers. How are y'all doing? Look at this. Look at all these wonderful people in this chat. I'll tell you what. I love being here on Monday nights. And part of the reason is this feller right here. Come on in here, Steve. Hey, buddy.
Hey. All right, let me get my microphone down here. How's everybody doing? Can you hear me okay?
There you are. Did I catch you? Did I get you early?
Usually you don't bring me in that quick, so I was just dicking
I'm always
around
going to
back
keep you
here.
guessing.
Can
I'm
you
always
hear
gonna
me
keep
all
you
right?
guessing.
I did a marathon on this computer over here, and then I switched everything, audio back over here to this computer, and I didn't get to test it out, so hopefully you can hear me okay.
I can hear you really good. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can everybody hear him? Sound is good, Vixen Doe says. Glenn Dannison is here. Lulu Bell.
Good
Uncommon
to see everybody
Belief.
here on a Monday night.
Salvador,
Get
can
that
you see?
boom arm out of
Brian
the way.
Bowden's here. He says, hey. And
Yeah,
let's see
hopefully
else
I'm not
we got in here. I
overpowering.
know we have Renise. Hi, sweetie. And
Here we
let's
go.
see who else we
Trying
got.
to get it down. Boom in the shot.
Pretty
boom in the
sure
shot.
I
Anybody that's ever
saw-
worked on a film set's heard that before.
You worked on a what? Cathedra. Hi,
Oh,
sweetie.
I was saying boom in the shot. You see the boom arm there, and I said
Oh, the
anybody
boom.
that's ever worked on a film set
Yeah.
has heard somebody yell that. Boom in the shot. Boom in the shot.
Hey, Susan. Great. Oh, this is wonderful. So anyway, it's been a crazy week, Steve. What you been up to? You've been doing a lot of marathons. You were running like two different things on two different channels.
Bringing 13 past midnight back from the dead.
It's wonderful.
Got some exciting news going on over there. Last time I checked, we were, I think, three subscribers away from 13,000. And once we hit that magic milestone, I'm going to have a round robin. What'd you call it? Nightmares
of the Round Table.
And
Does that
Cisco's
sound
going to
good?
be there. And at least two of the three brothers from Belief Hole podcast are going to join us.
Fantastic.
I love those
I'm already
guys.
doing push-ups.
And,
It's a marathon.
Got some other special guests coming up. So if
Yeah.
you haven't subscribed to my 13 Past Midnight channel,
You know who we
please
should
do.
get?
We're
We should get it.
there. Let me take a look and
You know
see
who we should get?
who's
Mr. Stockton, an actual knight.
That's right, Sir Brian Bowden there.
Yeah, Sir Brian Bowden.
Brian,
would
you
you
want to
be?
come on and tell a tale, a true tale of something?
We're gonna
scary?
do a ghost and scary encounter marathon.
12,998, so we're 2 subscribers away. So
To what
13 Past
channel? I'm already
Midnight.
subscribed.
If
If
one
I
of you mods could drop a
unsubscribe-
link to 13 Past Midnight, that'd be great.
Can you do that for me? We got Black Ops mods. How you doing tonight, mods? Throwing the bacon out there.
Yeah,
I've got a little bacon
September.
surprise for y'all too.
Hope you got your Halloween decorations
treat.
up. We got ours going
Already.
back here.
I'm
Got
already getting
stuff
my
over here that you can't see. Nicole's
my
been busy.
Halloween
She says hi, by the
intros.
way.
Hey Nick, hi sweetheart. I'm already working on Halloween intros and
Got
pumpkins
my
and
pumpkin spice
screaming
iced signature
pumpkins.
latte from Dunkin'.
I had
Dunkin'
one
is
yesterday.
An institution
it
here
can't
in New
come
England.
fast enough for me,
Starbucks,
my
what's
friend.
that? We like Dunkin', damn it. It's
I'm
from
gonna tell you.
here in New England. I believe Massachusetts is where it started. So
I don't
Well,
know,
I
but I
like
can tell you
Dunks, as
what,
they call it, a lot better than Starbucks.
it's one of
Starbucks
the
a little
places I
pretentious.
started.
No shade, no shame if you like Starbucks. I prefer Dunkin'.
That's where I started. I'm so old that when it was my second job because I started at the bakery in Belmar. But then they picked up a Dunkin' Donuts not far from my house. I could ride the bike, and I worked there
You're so old you
before
can
they
remember when
had
31
Munchkins.
flavors only had two.
And they had to. They didn't have Munchkins yet because the first week I was there, I just got my uniform, and the manager comes around the corner with a bunch of colored brochures in his hand, all excited about Munchkins to announce to everybody
I
that we were going to
remember
get
when those
donut
came out.
holes.
I was a kid.
I was
I made
there.
my dad, the next time we went to Knoxville, that was the only Dunkin' Donuts in the area. There was one, it was out on Magnolia Avenue in Knoxville. Next time we were in that area, I had to have a box of Munchkins. It was just, it was the magic of the
I
ad
think
campaign. It was,
I can't remember.
it
I
was a
think a
psyop.
dozen was about $2.58, something like that. I
I
can't.
don't think it was, I think that was for a box, which had like two or
Remember.
three dozen in it. It had a little carrying case.
Maybe, maybe I can't remember that one. That part's foggy, but I remember this is what they had when I started working there. They had regular donuts. They had one pot of chili and one pot of chicken noodle soup, and
I'd
they had
forgotten that they
just
used to
come
have
up.
chicken
Yes,
noodle soup. Maybe
yep.
they still do. I've ordered
I
breakfast
don't know.
sandwiches from there, and they have
Their
wraps
chili wasn't bad.
and all kinds
I
of good stuff.
mean,
I'd forgotten about the chili and the
and
chicken
they
noodle
had the
soup.
cinnamon bun because we had to. It took them. You would not believe how much training you have to go through at Dunkin' Donuts when they're excited about a new product of how to put it in the microwave, for the precise amount of seconds, put it on it, serve it with a napkin and a fork on a
And
little
if I
plate.
remember correctly, that box, if you got the big order of the Munchkins, it had a little mask you could cut out and wear over your face so you could
It's
be a Munchkin.
possible. It's possible.
I think.
It seems I have a foggy
Memory
memory
is
of that.
fading.
I have a foggy memory of that, but I can tell you they didn't have the cookie yet. They did not have the chocolate chip cookie. Those two you put in the microwave to warm them.
Mm.
But I used to have to fill donuts. We used to overfill the donuts for the jerks that came in after the bars closed and they were all drunk, but they had the munchies. So that if they were being, a little bit rowdy or whatever, being
Here,
jerks,
have a
we used to
donut.
give them the
Stick it in your mouth.
overfill. All this jelly, they take one bite and all this jelly and stuff would go all over the front of them and stuff. So,
Now,
oh, we're so
back
sorry.
in East Tennessee,
Let
in
me get
Knoxville, we
let me
had
get that
Krispy
cleaned up for
Kreme.
you.
For that, Krispy Kreme was open all night. They had like a lunch counter in there, coffee and donuts, and the sign would come on outside when they had fresh donuts. And when the bars emptied at 2 a.m., you either went to Crystal, Waffle House, or
Yep.
Krispy Kreme donuts.
We went to diners in Jersey. I mean, it's so changed now. I mean, everything is so changed. People try to hang on to that traditional thing, but I mean, it's like out here anyway. It's just so I just don't even know. But
Yeah,
I remember it. Used to get off
it's a
the bar
whole
would
different
close,
world out there in
last
Knoxville still.
call. Yep. You'd go to the diner, you'd have your hamburger, some fries, some ketchup, You'd eat a little something and you go home and you know.
Sleep it off.
But now, yeah, yeah. It's crazy now. It's just it's so nuts. But anyhow, yeah, they ruined everything. I couldn't believe you couldn't even smoke on the beach. We used to go and have bonfires. You could stay, after the fact. You go home and
I think
get all
you're
the
one of those
salt air
people
off.
that
You
used to
change.
sleep on the beach, aren't
Yeah,
you?
not all the time, but I absolutely have. I got stories, man. I got stories. There's most of them include the police being called eventually through some part of the story, and usually Jack Daniels and some kind of hilarity where you just can't even imagine how you live through that. It's kind of like the movie Hangover. I was just telling my son the other day. I
We all
said there
had
are
guardian
parts of my
angels
life
back then, that's for sure.
where you had nights like that. You know, so that's what being a teenager is all about. But you got to live through it. That's the you know. There's a catch to everything, Steve.
Absolutely. It's all
You
a
got to live
psyop.
through it. Mm. Yep, you got to live through it. So, what do you know about our friend here that we're going to talk about tonight? Mr. Sherlock Holmes and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
Well, Doyle was
Stephen,
an interesting character.
oh my gosh, yeah. And I'm going to ask you to give some points, just off from what you remember. Because Steve and I did a really good episode back about a year and a half ago. And we did a deep dive into Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and
The
I
Cottingley
want to
fairies.
Connolly.
Cottingley. Ever how you say it?
Codgely, yeah.
Cottingley? I can't.
Yeah.
So,
It's close. That's a hard one. It's a hard one.
Cottingley.
Somebody help
The
us out in the
fairies.
chat. Sound it out for us, chat.
Cottingley.
But the point was,
I
I
was saying it just fine
really,
earlier. You get me in front of a camera and I can't talk.
I
Cottingley
really liked
fairies.
him. I liked his little attitude. I mean, he didn't, you know, to look at the pictures now of the fairies, it almost looks so obvious that you almost lose respect for somebody that would believe so strongly. Do you understand what I'm saying, Steve?
Yeah, in our day and age
Yeah.
of Photoshop and fakery and stuff, it's easy to tell those were cut out of a magazine or something and stood up in the woods.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like with a hat pin, I think they said. But see, this
Yeah.
is the thing. I like him more for it. Do you see what I mean? I like him more for it because he dug in, and it's like, well, just because they faked it doesn't mean it's not out there. He was one of the first real famous, I mean, right in there with Houdini and so many others that have tried to uh, show people's trickery and the magic, and the of course, and that was going on. And that's the beauty of the whole thing, though. If you can still believe in the magic, if you can still believe in the possibilities and the some things you just have very little doubt of, at this point. And to be able for him to stand strong through all of that,
Well,
because
he was
he
an
took a
advocate
lot
of
of,
spiritualism. He believed that his wife
absolutely.
could talk to the dead. And he was friends with Houdini, and there was another magician
I
that he
like
was
him
friends
more
with
for
who
it. I
went
think he's
around
cheeky monkey.
trying to debunk everybody.
Yep, yep, yep. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. So hey, did Bowden answer us? Did I miss that chat? Going back, I was waiting for the. He already subscribed. Are you still here? Oh, he'd be honored. Okay, there we go. So see,
Okay.
here's the thing. I ask a question, and then I know there's going to be this delay, and then you're waiting for the person to, they're getting it, and then they're thinking about their answer. They're typing it all in. So it's quite some time when you're trying to keep track. Meanwhile, we've already hit two other subjects, and I've forgotten. You know what I mean? So what do
Been
you
all over
say?
the place. We got
First off,
sidetracked with Dunkin'
we've
Donuts.
got a little bit on Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. I've got we have a wonderful guide tonight, and you know him and you love him. It's Leonard Nimoy, and he's going to take us through the whole thought about people who got so caught up in Sherlock Holmes that they almost believe he was a real character, not just somebody based on, but almost took on a life of its own. Steve, not dissimilar to who was the author who who had the character that he spent so much time in his little New York apartment that it brought
Walter
it to life.
Gibson and The
Well,
Shadow.
The
Lamont
Shadow.
Cranston. That he
Thank you.
actually began to see. This was a guy that had like 7 typewriters, and he
Yeah.
would jump from typewriter to typewriter. Wrote literally around the clock the radio plays and the
Yep.
penny or the dime
Glenn's
novel
got it.
versions of that.
Yep. Yep.
And
That's what. Yep.
he started seeing. He had a dinner party one night, and up in the gallery, above the
Hey, Monica.
dining room, there was a walkway up
Joanne.
there, and they saw somebody dressed as the Shadow. And they thought, "Oh, that's clever. You've got somebody dressed as the Shadow to appear at the
A
dinner party." He
reenactor,
said,
so to
"No,
speak.
that whatever that is moves around in this apartment," and he called it a psychic impression, I think. But it was basically a tulpa. And he
Tulpa.
had literally blood, sweat, and tears over those. No, he would type until his fingers bled.
Dude,
He poured so much into that character that it became seemingly real. And then later on, I think it's Hans Holzer, investigated that apartment. There was other
Did he?
activity and hauntings and stuff there. And I talked to Dave Schrader about that not too long ago, a couple of years ago, and they were going to check into it when he
We
was
got to
doing
get
the
him on.
Holzer files. So
Hmm.
I've never
Oh,
seen that
very
episode,
interesting.
so I don't know if they did it or not. But
Yeah, the
one
Holzer
of the
Fires
things
was
that I
very
like
interesting.
that, and you have to remember that Sherlock Holmes was a character, but he was created by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And one of the things that Sherlock Holmes said, when you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. Now, think about that. What a
Like Occam's razor
profound
almost.
statement that is.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I
When
think
you've
a lot
eliminated
of
the
paranormal.
impossible,
Yeah.
whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. That's almost like
Hmm.
Occam's razor.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think even without even n- knowing it really, a lot of paranormal investigators feel that way and do
Yeah,
that just automatically over time. You get a little more seasoned, you're in there, and you've already sorted out what's important to you. You've kind of got your gig, whatever your parts of your machine
cottingly,
that you
apparently.
use
Cottingly.
yourself.
Somebody messaged me. Cottingly.
Say it again. Cotting.
Cottingly. Cottingly
Cottingly.
fairies. The
There we
five
go.
Cottingly fairy photographs.
Well, like I said, there's a little bit of that in there. I didn't lean too much on that tonight,
Yeah.
but
Well,
I
from what
wanted it to
I've
be
read,
known that, like I said, I like him more for it.
he was had kind of had an interest in the older sister. I think she was 16 or 17 or
Yeah,
something, and
there's a
he
little
was
something
in
going
his
on there that I don't
40s,
like,
and
but still.
yeah.
Yeah, see, and here's Yoda girl. Bless your heart, I'll forever call you. I don't know what it is about the way that the font is on her name, but I always want to call her, instead of Joanne. It's absolutely obvious it's Joanne. But why do
Joanne,
I
and
call her Joan?
I do that. Lee does that
Why?
over on First Radio. We all go straight to Yoda Girl.
I think there's something about the font, the way the letters all come together. It's almost makes one. It's wild, you know. And I don't want to be disrespectful at all. So Yoda girl, because I'm an idiot anyway. You start throwing in optical illusions and stuff in my, you know, and it's not her fault. It's just the way the font is. I think that's what I'm blaming it on anyway. And we miss saying hi to Monica. And did I say hi to
Monica
you, Bernice? I
Device is
think I
here.
did,
Glenn
sweetie.
Dannison, good to see you.
Susan. Yep.
Dixon
Yep.
Doe,
Yep.
hope things are well up in Maine. It's been hot
Yeah.
down here in my part of New England. It's Indian summer.
I'm
That's what they
telling
used
you,
to call it
Steve,
when I
I'm
was a
ready
kid.
for when those
I'm
leaves
ready for
start
fall.
turning.
There's just a little hint of fall color starting to show,
Mm,
and
you
it felt like
stink.
fall in the mornings when I got up to take Mulder out. It'd be like in the 50s, and it's almost there.
Oh,
But
you're gonna have to get a
then we're going
sweater.
to be like in the 80s or 90s for 2 or 3 days, and then
Yeah.
back to the fall weather.
He's gonna need a little sweater. Get him one of those little jackets that's got the fur around the like a little hood with the fur around it. You know, he'd be adorable in that for
Yeah,
Mulder.
yeah.
It
I'm
would be
gonna have to
adorable.
get him groomed. He's shedding, and it's all over the place. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
get him a buzz cut, get his
just give him a
nails
good
done, and
brush. Yeah,
we'll get him a little. He loves
get him
sweaters.
bougie, bougie.
Uh, he used to have a sweater in Oregon, and when he got cold, he would come and bring me a sweater and
Bring
want
this
me to put
sweater.
it
Oh
on him.
my
Yeah.
gosh, that's funny. How precious is that? Okay, let's see what we want to start with. Okay, well, I have a little surprise. So here's the thing. I took a little trip to Pennsylvania this weekend and did some fun stuff there and just visited a town. We had to go a couple places there. Never been to this town before. It's right outside of Lancaster and it's called Leola. And it's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, just lovely. The Amish are there, and you've got the horses and the carts and but it's almost not as much as like deep into Lancaster, but there's a nice mix. And the people are so nice, and everything is like down home cooking and things, and everything.
Now,
The food tastes so good.
Lancaster, that's like Amish country, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Or
absolutely.
Pennsylvania Dutch, whatever they
Uh
call
huh.
themselves.
Everything's beautiful. The corn is high. I mean, the everything is flourishing. It's wonderful to see. You love to see it. You love to see it. So we had to go get lunch somewhere. So just out of now, this is wild, but I got so excited because I was thinking about this chat the whole time. It's crazy. Hey, Jack. And so anyway, We go and we pick a place completely random. We're just trying to find a little place close to where we've got an appointment in a couple hours, right? So we pull into this place, no idea what it is, just like kind of almost like a little down home dinette kind of thing. Much to my surprise, it turned out to be the place called Gracie's on West Main. And I'm such an idiot. I know nothing. I walk in the door and this is what I see. So I had to take some pictures. I asked the manager, I said, look, you don't understand. I have a chat. And they're going to go nuts when they see this. Can I take pictures? And he laughed and he thought it was great. So for you guys, this is what we did. You're going to love it. Isn't that the cutest little place? They just redid a little house, but wait till you see on the inside. I walk in to the number one place where they say bacon is love. Where your bacon dreams come true. Wake up, it's bacon o'clock. I'm like, can I take pictures? Best bacon.
What are the odds?
Look at this. Bacon lovers wanted. Look at this. A bacon high five. They have the bacon brittle. What are the odds, Steve? No clue. We just turned in. Gracie's on West Main. If you're ever in downtown Leola, look at that bacon, chat. Throw it up there. And I'll tell you what, go on over to the YouTube channel or the website.
There are no
and tell them
coincidences,
Cisco
only
sent
synchronicities. You were bound to go there.
It was delicious. I had the double bacon.
I was going to say, did you have bacon?
Best fries this side of the Mississippi, I swear. It was so good. And you just know everything there was like from the farm, the local farms, you know. And the pastries and the bakery items and stuff just look, oh. And
now,
the people
I saw the
so
bacon
nice.
Brittle, but I've got to ask, did they have chocolate covered bacon?
You know, I didn't. I was so distracted by how lovely.
I went to in Colorado and just
outside
Durango that they had. No,
it
Silverton.
is.
It was close to Silverton. They had chocolate covered bacon.
Yep. And the neatest thing all through the theme was all the don't underestimate chalkboard paint, I'm telling you, because they did the door and wrote restroom up the side and then had a nice thing about everywhere you looked. They had motivational little sayings, you know, like you weren't meant to come here to suffer, you were meant to thrive and be, you know, just different things all over the place. And bacon everywhere. Everybody at the table had bacon, and it was just amazing. You could tell, like I said, the tomatoes, everything was just fresh. They had fresh wildflowers on the table, and everybody was just really nice. And it was just amazing. Like, of all the bacon places in all the world, I walk into that one totally blind to like, wait a minute, does everything in here say bacon on it, or is it just me? So I had to get that for you guys. I hope you liked it. It's an adorable little place, and the food is really, really good. So again, that's their website, Gracie's on West Main in Leola, Pennsylvania. And if you're ever out that way, it's absolutely worth a drive around. If you're into antiques, Pennsylvania is famous for history and antiques, and the whole Lancaster, you know, they have all kind of farmers markets and all kinds of things. So, and all kinds of really cool things like lanterns and butter churns and things like that that still work to this day. You know what I mean? I don't think they have electric butter churns. Do you, Steve? Do you ever think there's such a thing?
I've seen one. I've actually seen one from like the 30s or 40s, but it's not what you think. It's like a big glass jar with a motor on the top, and the paddles move around. Nicole and I were looking for ice cream freezers, and it's hard to find one that's not electric. I wanted one of the old hand crank ones. By God, I'm going to make ice cream.
You know,
That's the
when
way
you
we did it
start
when I was a
getting,
kid. If you wanted ice cream, you
yeah,
took a turn on the crank.
exactly. If you guys just need to start going antiquing and go into the old flea markets and stuff like that. Maybe go to a different one like every Saturday or Sunday morning or something,
Yeah,
and you'll find one. You'll find one. The
yeah,
things
probably
like that are
find
going to
one
be
at a
harder
thrift store or
because
something. And the part that makes the ice cream, the freezer part, it's stainless steel. You
mhm.
pour boiling water in it, swish it around, you're good to go.
So there you go. Just in case you ever go to Pennsylvania or you're thinking about doing it, stop
Did you
by
say
and
it was
get you a BLT.
Lancaster?
It's right outside of
If I
Lancaster. It's
remember in
called
Lancaster,
Leola.
Pennsylvania,
Leola.
that's on my bucket list.
Yeah, yeah.
Speaking
You
of
have to
bucket
go to
list,
Gracie's and get a BLT.
Nicole has made arrangements. I'm going to go to Salem, Massachusetts for Halloween for my birthday.
Woo!
So, first
Oh,
time
it's
either
just,
one of us has been there, and
I'm
I'm
so
really, really
jealous.
looking forward to Salem.
I am so jealous. We'll have to talk about it. Maybe we can get out there too. Who knows? All right. So I made a little thing about, our friend here, old Sherlock. A couple little facts, a couple things you may not know, a couple things maybe you do know, but maybe you know more about it and you can tell us in the chat. So it's just kind of a cliff notes about things that Steve and I talked about Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and his, I don't want to say invention of a character,
I
but
think of it as maybe an alter ego.
could have been. I know he leaned a lot on his professor, who was very good at diagnosis and the most finite details. So I guess that's where he got
It's
his
probably
his
he took
respect for
a
that kind
little
of thing.
bit from several different real
Yeah,
people and
I'm
put it
sure.
together to make this fictional character.
I'm
That's
absolutely
my
sure.
take on it, but I'm
Yeah,
no
yeah.
expert on Doyle.
Me either. But man, he had things about him that to like and things about him where you just go, okay, we got to stop saying that was the times. Right is right and wrong is wrong. I mean, he did have some things there with those little enamored with young ladies. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And that's not, I don't think that's stretching it. All right, let's see what we got. Oh, there he is. Ignatius Conan Doyle, Dave. Sir Arthur Ignatius Conan Doyle. Scottish. Yep. My ancestors always a little weird. That's who it was, Joseph Bell.
Diagnostic deduction.
It's the first one. Studying Scarlet. 1887, Steve. Films. But our friend Dracula.
My favorite, Basil Rathbone and Peter Cushing.
Oh, yeah. Who's this? You'll recognize in a minute, Steve, who this is. Here comes. Ah! Todd Knox. Doyle never wrote it.
Okay, I didn't know what where that was going. It said the end.
He never wrote it. They made it up. I thought that was beautiful. Isn't that something?
Not all the portrayals had him with the deerstalker cap. He's synonymous with that hat.
I'm sorry, what'd you say? I wanted to hear what you said.
I said not all portrayals of him had him with the deerstalker cap, although that is synonymous with Holmes and detective work. It's just the cap. You can see that deerstalker cap, and you think, and the pipe, and you think detective.
Yep. There it is. Yep, it's iconic. It's iconic. Yep, there it is. He was the first one to use a magnifying glass. Fictional sleuth, if that's how you want to say it. The trip, isn't it? Some of the artwork is just the comic book. 221B Baker Street. There it is. That's so nice. I love that font. You know I do.
Love to hear.
Isn't that? It looks like a cute place too. There it is.
He was scientific. He had a laboratory.
Yeah. Accomplished violinist. Thanks to Sir Cubworth. This AI is getting a little fun, man. If you're doing this kind of stuff like episode art, it's fun. Well, there you go. That's a little bit about our friend Sherlock there. Yeah, that thing where he says elementary, my dear Watson, elementary. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle never wrote that in any in the book. That came up over time through characters, and it's the most iconic line.
Yeah, it's one of those remembered lines that were never said.
I mean, he said him in the movies, but Doyle never wrote it in the novel. That wasn't part of the character. It was almost one of those kind of ad libs that really became almost the, what do you call that? The tagline, you know, kind of thing. So, all right. Well, are you guys ready for...
you hear elementary, you know exactly. My dear Watson, you know you think Sherlock Holmes.
Automatically.
It's just
and they said about the...
culture, pop culture.
There was something about the hat. What did you call the cap? A deer what?
Deer stalker.
Deer stalker. He said something, I read something about it today where it said that he didn't really have that so much, but that also became such an iconic part.
And I think that was from the film portrayals. Like I said, Basil Rathbone, Peter Cushing, they wore those in the movies. And you look up Sherlock Holmes' costume, that's what it'll be. It'll be a deer stalker cap, a magnifying glass, and a pipe, usually a meerschaum, a curved pipe.
You know, you could just see the hat and pipe and already you're thinking Sherlock Holmes. Without a face, without even a head being in it. You know.
Yep.
And you can't put that the other way around. You can't just have a head and think it's something. Well, that's something totally different, isn't it?
Well, yeah, if you just saw any of those people that portrayed him without those iconic accessories, it wouldn't make any sense.
Right. That one gentleman where I had some of the gifts from him, I don't know the actor's name, but I wanted to portray from that kind of period, that nostalgia period. Now, there's been a lot of good ones, movies, I think, we all have our favorites with the Sherlock Holmes. I gotta say, I like the Robert Downey Jr. Versions, both of them. Good. They didn't go too far. Yeah, some of it was fun, but
And there was a series that came out, I want to say, like in the 80s or 90s, the New Adventures of Sherlock Holmes or something like that.
Who played in that one?
I don't remember. I remember watching it. It was good. There's probably an aficionado here in the chat.
The New Adventures?
I bet Glenn Dannison. I believe it was the New Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. And I don't remember what network it might have been on one of the streaming services. It's been a few years ago. But that was pretty good. But I like the one with Robert Downey Jr. What movie was that? What was the name of that movie?
Oh, I forget. I really do. There was two of them. All right, the New Adventures. The cast was Basil. Oh, let's see. I don't know. I'll tell you what. They've got all kinds of stuff jumping in here now. It's hard to tell. The New Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, and Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce. Let's see if I can get a picture up here. This may not be
It
what you're
wasn't the
talking
Benedict
about.
Cumberbatch version, I don't think, but maybe it was. Let me look.
Benedict Humpty Dump.
New Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Uh, that's a radio
Here you
drama
go. Is
series
this
from
it?
39 to 50. That's not the one I was thinking about.
Is that the one?
This was a more modern version.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Because this one looks like the movies, like a collection of movies, perhaps. Volume 3, yeah, it looks like it's definitely part of a series.
yeah, that's
Look
not
at,
the
I
one
just
I'm
deduced
thinking
that
about.
live here on the inner tubes, Steve. I must be having that Sherlock Holmes rubbing off on me.
Nope.
Are you ready to let Mr. Leonard
Let Leonard
Nimoy
tell us all about it.
tell us all about it? Does Mulder have to go roll a cigarette or anything? Is he good to go?
We've switched to vape, so
So we're vaping tonight. I have one too, but I don't know what it's called. It's got a slight
this is
I
simply
don't want to
mint.
say it's got a hint of cotton candy, blueberry, something or other, but it's not.
I've
It's
tried
so
several different
subtle.
flavors. Frankenberry cereal was a really good one. Gummy bear was good. Had a red apple ice.
Oh
Uh,
wait, that sounds good.
I got one that was guava something. It
No,
wasn't
no.
so good
Go back
unless you
one.
like guava.
That
But
red apple
simply
ice,
mint
man.
is really good. I was a menthol smoker before when I smoked, and these things are incredible. They cost you about what 2 packs of cigarettes cost. They're rechargeable, and they've got I think 6,000 puffs or something like that in them.
Good Lord, that's another. I don't. Everything now has to be charged or plugged in, and I'm just like I get the cords. I'm just like a kitten with a ball of yarn.
Well,
Everything
they've
I've
got
got's in
some that aren't
knots,
rechargeable, but then
just absolute
that's
knots.
the
That's
red
kind of
ice.
like mine.
I like the form factor that
Mhm.
it's almost like a
Mine's
cigar.
pretty blue. Does yours light up a little bit? It's got
Yeah.
like a little light.
Now there's
What have they
speaking
done
of
to us,
Sherlock
Steve?
Holmes,
What
I
have they
found a
done to us?
pipe that I want, an Eve juice pipe that's it looks like a regular pipe, and the bowl actually lights up, but it's a vaping unit. That's on my list of stuff
I
to
was
get.
I know it's going to sound crazy, but I was just sitting here thinking,
Yeah,
if
it's
time
bad.
this is how my mind works. I'm sitting here in that amount of time you were talking. If the time travel was possible and like a family or a group of people from like say the 40s jumped into this moment and we were sitting here vaping on talking about all that kind of stuff. Can you imagine how absurd it would appear to them? I'm just saying, like the Waltons era, coming out of hacking it out of a mountain and just being a family and surviving during the Depression. And think about it. It's how much everything has changed so much. So in a
So
very
much
short
just
amount of
in a
time.
few generations from even like when my dad, he would have been 102 this year had he lived.
God
But
bless them.
I mean, technology and stuff from the 20s, 1921 when he was born, it's just incredible. He passed away in 2003. But look at all that had come forth between that time. I mean,
That
the
amount of
first
time.
house he grew up in, they didn't even have electricity. And then the first electricity they had was an array of batteries that ran one or two little bulbs and the radio so they could listen to the Grand Ole Opry, the Cumberland Plateau of Middle
Grand Ole
Tennessee.
Opry. Old Minnie Pearl. She's in
And then to
cabin
go from
22.
that to,
Hey,
computers
bros.
and the cell phones, what would they think of cell phones and things like that?
Does that mean, is he talking about Alexander Krusty Bump, whatever his name is? Well, who's
Benedict
the
Cumberbatch, I don't know.
the
I've
poor
heard the
guy?
name, but
That
I've
can't be his.
never seen a show that he. Does
Can
that
you
have to do
imagine
with
if he
Pinky
did some type of
Blenders
a
or Pinky Blinkers or
Peaky
whatever that
Blinders? Now that was
Pinky?
good. That first season of Peaky
Well, I don't
Blinders
even
was
know. I've heard that discussed, but I'm not even
that
sure
was
what
like
that
an
is.
epic first season. After that, you could tell they were kind of trying to make things fit and everything else. Sometimes people should just stop. They go for it, but writers change and things shift, and you know what I mean. Sometimes it gets better, and a lot of times it doesn't. You know, who knows?
Hey,
So
Frosmo, it's
anyhow,
good to see you too.
Yeah, I love this chat. Good time. All right, guys, here we go. I think. Are we going to go? Yeah, we're good. Here we are.
Only a few phrases in English literature have left the printed page to gain their own immortality. Shakespeare's "to be or not to be" is one. Charles Dickens' "it was the best of times, it was the worst of times" is another. None, perhaps, has captured the world's imagination more completely than "Elementary, my dear Watson, elementary." Spoken by the most brilliant and popular private detective of all time. The question is still debated to this day. Who was Sherlock Holmes?
Really, Holmes, there's something positively inhuman about you at times.
My dear Watson, I never allow my judgment to be biased by personal qualities.
While it is common knowledge that Conan Doyle wrote the adventures of Sherlock Holmes, many readers were and still are convinced that this unique detective actually existed. Did he?
Did you catch that? Right in the beginning, he says that the Dickens quote, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, Tale of Two Cities." And the first one was
Shakespeare, "To be or not to be."
To be or not to be. Okay. And then he says that Doyle didn't write it. And in his own show.
But then he said it was spoken, so that kind of segued into the film.
Maybe so. Maybe he's
but,
just teasing us.
You're right, though. 100%. Doyle did not write those words.
Right, right. So I don't know. Do you think he's just being cheeky with us? You know, it's not about. You know,
whoever wrote that
he'll
episode,
pull some shit. He was Vulcan, right?
You know, maybe it's a red herring.
Could be. Well, you gotta love him. You love to see it.
An expert on the Sherlock Holmes period, Peter Lovesey.
The London of Sherlock Holmes was a sinister place, like these vaults of the Western Dock. It was a place of extreme poverty and squalor, where Jack the Ripper roamed the fog-enshrouded streets of the East End looking for his miserable victims. And the police were quite unable to control the crime. But many people look back on it as a golden age, when Queen Victoria had reigned for as long as anyone could remember, and the upper classes could feel secure, safeguarded by the greatest of all detectives, Sherlock Holmes of Baker Street.
The fact of the matter was, in the decade prior to Holmes' appearance in print, the London police had failed to combat the growing crime rate. Even corruption in the force flourished. There were dynamitings involving the Irish problem, ruthlessly suppressed meetings of the unemployed, and most of all, the notorious Jack the Ripper murders, never solved.
Oh, hell was
Not
breaking
all
loose.
police were inefficient or corrupt, of course, but leadership was clearly lacking. The public was not being served.
Terrible times.
The birth of Sherlock Holmes as a public figure is documented in a rare collection owned by Stanley Mackenzie.
The big cornerstone of any Sherlock Holmes collection, and which is the envy of most collectors, is Beeton's Christmas Annual for 1887. In this, A Study in Scarlet was first published. This was the first appearance of the first Sherlock Holmes story.
That's a hell of a cover, Steve. Don't you think? Are you frozen, my love? He's frozen, isn't he, folks? But look at that
Conan
cover.
Doyle was paid £25 for the copyright, and he never received another penny.
What? Did you hear that? Did you know that? That's a trip, isn't it? Come on back in, Steve. Let's hear that again, because we don't realize these things. You know, we take it for granted that everybody that, you know, I mean, just look, a couple weeks ago, we were talking about Bram Stoker. Never got to really see Dracula take off. You know, it's sad, but this was a trip. Never received another penny.
First published. This was the first appearance of the first Sherlock Holmes story. Conan Doyle was paid £25 for the copyright, and he never received another penny. Sherlock Holmes's reputation was enhanced by a play about him written by an American actor, William Gillette. This poster shows Gillette himself in the gas chamber scene in the play. Gillette probably played the part of Holmes more times than any other actor.
An 1895 recording preserves his performance.
How the deuce did you know my wife was away? Marvelous, elementary, my dear fellow, elementary.
Incredible. 1895. Let's hear it one more time. I mean, 1895. My grandmother was born in 1890. She lived to be 98 years old. Passed in 81. Yeah. 1981. Yeah. This is, man, blows my mind.
An 1895 recording preserves his performance.
How the deuce did you know my wife was away? Marvelous, elementary, my dear fellow, elementary.
Did you get to hear that, Steve? From
No,
1895,
my
that
internet
recording?
dropped
Okay, guys, sorry, chat, one more time. This is a little recording by one of the actors that played Holmes more than anything else, but it's from 1895, and I was just saying that my grandmother, on my mother's side, was born in 1890, and just to put those two things together, I'm thinking, she lived to be 98, and she died in 81. That's saying something, man. And these old wax recordings blow my mind. Here we go.
Gillette probably played the part of Holmes more times than any other actor.
An 1895 recording preserves his performance.
How the deuce did you know my wife was away? Marvelous, elementary, my dear fellow, elementary.
How about that?
From theater to motion pictures was also an elementary step for the master sleuth. Fame and fortune would quickly accrue to Doyle as well.
We are getting on, Watson. I'm glad to see you in a more cheerful mood. We've done remarkable.
By 1933, a third version of A Study in Scarlet had been made, with Reginald Owen playing the detective whose personal and professional style set him apart from all others.
The large number represented the page, the second, the small number, the column, and the other figures the message. You'll find it decoded on the table.
Every Holmes adventure is different, but in all of them he plays the violin, of which he was a master.
Now, I got to ask this. How many do you think, and I don't have the answer to this, but if somebody does, I would absolutely love to hear it. And if you did, it would knock me off my chair if you know this and scare me a little. I'm wondering, out of all these actors that played Holmes, now keep in mind, what was it, 236 different films at the time that the information was given. I don't know how up to date that is. It's probably more now. I think they got it up to the last Robert Downey Jr. movie, at least. I know I saw that in there, so it's darn close. How many of these actors actually played the violin, and how many were dubbed? How many were just playing around?
I bet
Because
Glenn Dennison knows.
do you think, Glenn? Do you have the answer to that? Let's give Glenn to say do 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 do. Here's the reason, though. I think we would have to look at that and keep in mind that when they started doing films, look at this. What year was this? And so many people played instruments, is what I mean. It's very skewed from what today would be. So you have to factor that in, I think. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, chat? Okay.
The client was.
How many, I wonder?
The widow standing under the street.
He doesn't have the answer.
A widow? Would you like to bet on that?
Of course.
Yep.
Well, I'm not going down the street to ask her.
Ah. Won't be necessary. She's made up her mind.
I love this. Now, this is very much for those people that like the show Lie to Me. Listen to what he says here and how he is deducing that
And
this woman's coming up.
Glenn to say elementary, my dear Cisco, and tell you how many of them actually played the violin.
Yes,
But you know, back in the day,
people played instruments.
People played instruments. A lot of people played violin.
I think it's higher than
at
you
home.
would think.
I'd say it is, especially the older actors.
Yeah. I think it would be very skewed from today. You know what I mean? Because think about it. Most people, you people that went across the Oklahoma Trail and all that stuff, the Oregon Trail and all that, they carried pianos if they were lucky enough to have one in the family. Teachers played it. I had
like
a
people
teacher
in my
that played
dad's
piano.
family, they called it the fiddle, but it's the violin.
Yeah.
They played those old Irish jigs and reels and things like that, and that's where bluegrass and a lot of your folk music had its origins in people that immigrated from what's now the UK.
Growing up, I can tell you right now, I had teachers that brought a guitar in and played it, which it was much less, of course, than going into the classroom, had a piano in every classroom. That was a thing. Just like it was with Holmes, a piano or an organ, when you could get the little organs in more modern times, you know what I mean? Not those great big pipe organ things, but you know what I mean. But anyway, that's crazy. I wonder. I bet you it's higher than we think.
Would you like to bet on that?
Of course.
But listen to what he says here. This is crazy.
I'm not going down the street to ask her.
Ah. Won't be necessary. She's made up her mind.
So you deduce at a distance, eh?
Not in this case. I recognized her features. She's a Mrs. Murphy. Her husband was murdered 3 days ago.
You mean the man that was found dead in a train?
Exactly. Come in.
Mrs. Murphy to see you, sir.
Mr. Holmes, I'm in such a mess. Such a mess. My husband up and died without leaving me as much as a...
Holmes would never refuse a woman in distress, whether she be plain or beautiful.
It's true.
And in some cases, he might reluctantly have to turn her over to the authorities. For under his cool exterior burned a passion for justice to be feared by all villains.
London's most dangerous crook. The king
It's
of
absolutely
blackmailers.
true.
A gliding, slithy, venomous snake. Once in his power, he'll squeeze and squeeze until he's drained his victims dry. More than once I've had my net around him, but so far he's managed to wriggle his way out.
Moriarty.
But the time has come, Watson. No shot broke that window.
How did this modern detective come into being? What was Holmes' creator like?
There he is.
Arthur Conan Doyle was born in Edinburgh in
sad eyes.
1859. Raised in one of the gracious Georgian homes in the new town, he enrolled at the age of
Look at that,
17
Steve.
as a
Oh, my
student
gosh.
of medicine at the university. Here he learned the methods of diagnosis, which, applied to the analysis of crime, became the basis of Holmes' famous methods of detection. No one questions that the inspiration for
Look at
his
here.
quick-witted hero came from Doyle's tutor, Dr. Joseph Bell, here recreated for In Search Of.
I've always
Lives on
considered
the
Conan Doyle
hunt.
as one of the best students I ever had.
Look at that. I would imagine that some did learn to play for the role, yeah? And Benedict Humpty Bunch, he learned. And then you've
Humpty
got
Dump, is that what you called it?
Humpty Bunch.
Cumberbund.
He
Benedict
deserved.
Cumberbund.
Look, if you're going to put a name like that out there, you got to be ready.
Like Engelbert Humperdinck.
Yeah, and
It's
and Peter
memorable.
Lemonjello, get him in there. I mean, come on. And if that's not your real name,
Hey,
then
there's
why?
Cathedra. How you doing, Cathedra? Good to see
Hey,
you.
sweetie. I mean, if it's not your real name, why would you suffer? Lemonjello? Are you kidding? Yeah, it's crazy. There was a lot of crazy names back in the day. Oh, geez. But anyhow, I wanted to say that out of respect that we watched a lot of these movies as kids. Steve and I, we didn't grow up in the same state, but it was the time. So everybody had 2-3 channels. And
Yeah.
Saturday morning or Sunday morning after the church shows and all this, and Davy and Goliath. Do you remember that one? The clay
Davy and
action figure,
Goliath,
Davy and Goliath.
brought to you
I
by
love
the
that.
Lutheran Church in America. Love Davy and Goliath. And the local origination programming, they had a lot of those old movies that they would show. A local station there in Knoxville had a show called The Early Show, and they showed a movie every day. I think it was like at 4 o'clock, and they would have themed weeks. They had Sherlock Holmes week, and you could watch a different Sherlock Holmes movie
the whole
Monday
point
through Friday.
where they were
Tarzan
saying,
week or Horror
yeah,
week,
yeah.
or I love those.
Oh my gosh, yeah. But it instills within you, and you watch so much of this. We didn't have a choice. We would like have to click between the 2 or 3, and then if you were lucky enough to catch a movie like this, you sat and you watched it.
Yeah.
And
you
know, things like this got into you. Yeah.
After
got into your
were
head.
Over, then one of the stations would show a movie. And where I was growing up, we couldn't get the ABC affiliate. It was on UHF. So I had to watch either NBC or CBS, and then the local affiliates had their own programming. And that was where I saw all these classic Hammer films and stuff was on those local stations.
And with him, I always remembered that he would do that. He would always help a woman in distress, just like the old, Knights of the Round Table stories and the Camelots and whatnot, and the King Arthur stuff. But if he had to turn her in, if she was guilty, he would do it with the same stoic duty. Do you know what I mean? And you learn that, look, crime doesn't pay, man. And thank God for stuff like that, because if you flip it and you talk about, when my kids came up or grandkids came up, they're almost taught the opposite. Just do it. And people that had to go through the whole time when they started putting out their, it was its own Just Do It campaign. It was more in the 60s, was, let go and, tune in, tune out.
That was one of the T-shirts in the 60s.
Same thing.
If it feels good, do it.
Do it.
Remember that?
Live free, born free and all that. But again, it was almost like the whole Patty Hearst thing and, all things like that, 10,000 things like it. There was almost try to get away with it, who didn't root for the criminal in those 70s movies and things like that? Come on, but we also rooted for the Serpicos
like
and
that. Steal This Book, it was just...
Oh yeah. Oh, that was something. Steal This Book, yeah. Yeah. Is that Abby Hoffman?
I think it was Abby Hoffman. Might have been the other guy, Jerry Rubin.
Best freaking Abby Hoffman story. Now listen, if you want to hear this told correctly, you go over to America's Untold Stories and you pull up Eric Hundley's and Mark Grobert's channel, and it's absolutely worth it. If you're not over there and subscribed, I'm telling you, the best history stories. He's almost like the Forrest Gump of pop culture, and because he was all in, he was like a editor. I'm going to get it wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was editor of one of those magazines. It wasn't Cream. There was Cream and Mad Magazine and something else. Was it National Lampoon, maybe?
Yeah, it was.
And I know
Abby
we
Hoffman.
did.
Steal This Book.
Steal
the
This
publisher
Book.
did not want to publish that, but he insisted.
Exactly. It's wonderful. But anyway, Mark actually knew Abby. So back in the day, Abby Hoffman was a professional, like a protester, and he actually went up. So he had some valid
from the
points.
hippies. He was a yippie. They were there to cause trouble and see what they could get away with. The hippies were all about love and peace and flowers.
He really
Abby wanted to shake things up.
He really had some valid points, really. And so anyway, jump ahead. So he had this idea what he was going to do. He was very good at, and again, I'm not doing it justice. Get over there and hear Mark tell it, because he was like almost there. And so anyway, he gets this idea that he's going to rally this group around the Pentagon. And he's going to have the group circle the Pentagon and with their joined energy,
They were going to
lift
levitate
the Pentagon, levitate the Pentagon, and push the demons out of it and stop the wars and and the killing and the Vietnam and all this other stuff. So the news gets a hold of this, the Pentagon gets a hold of this, and everything else. Abby winds up somehow finagling getting a news conference. Back in the day, it used to be all the microphones pointed at, they do it at NBC, ABC on them. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's talking in black and white. There was no color back then. And, all these reporters and everything. And the generals, they're sitting there and they're negotiating. And I swear to God, this happened. You can look it up. It's a historical fact. The generals are saying not 25 feet. You can only do it 5 feet. We're gonna compromise. You could only lift it 5 feet.
You can only levitate at 5 feet.
And Abby is arguing with the straightest face you've ever seen in your life. Tim Roth, it would be amazing at playing this guy. And he's straight face. He says, "Listen to me. It has to be the 25 feet because the ladders from the fire trucks are only going to go so high. We don't want any generals to fall and hurt themselves when they rush out of the building from all of the energy shaking the Pentagon." Absolutely happened.
And
Absolutely
he kept
happened.
A straight face the entire time.
The whole
hey,
time.
First Floor Audio, Lee G. How you doing, brother? Good to see you.
What's up,
Thanks
Bubbles? Welcome
here.
in. Hey, Lee. How
and
you
I
doing,
think,
sweetie?
wasn't it Abby also that he'd finagled a...
wonderful
He got
stories.
invited to the White House through, I think it was one of somebody's daughters or something, and he was going to try to slip LSD into Nixon's coffee cup.
Oh, jeez. No, you know who he was with? Oh, who the hell was it? Oh, it was some chick. Hold on.
I think Julie Nixon, wasn't it? One of Nixon's daughters or something like that?
I believe so. But I don't want to misquote. But again, Mark tells that story as well because they do a whole episode on Abby Hoffman.
Yeah,
so
he
get over
tried
there.
to dose Nixon.
Yeah. Oh God. But they did, for some reason they did. I believe they didn't do it, but I don't know. I could be remembering wrong. But get over there, listen to the Eric Hunley, Mark Robert, their YouTube channel, America's Untold Stories. It's fantastic. He does a whole thing on JFK.
I'll have to go have a listen.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's really amazing. It's a lot of good history, a lot of LBJ stuff, a lot of Jack Ruby and Oswald. But again, so many other people there that you guys, a lot of people don't hear about. A lot of these generals and, Bombs Away, LeMay, and all these different.
Another interesting group at
Holy
the same time was
shit,
Ken
these people.
Kesey and the Merry Pranksters that traveled around in a bus. And just silliness.
Yeah. Oh, he does a really good one on some of the old comedians and stuff that were back in the day because he had a lot of connections to. He worked for MTV's magazine, so many different things like that. So he got to meet a lot of these people that way. So that's where a lot of these stories come from.
Lenny Bruce was one of the
Lenny Bruce. Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah.
He was George
Absolutely.
Carlin before George Carlin.
Absolutely. So yeah, get over there and check out that channel. It's amazing. So anyway, I just wanted to give homage to Sherlock here.
The CIA or some letter agency.
Oh God, yeah. There's so much good stuff in there.
Discord and things that he was causing in the young people. He was.
Oh my God,
trying to open people's eyes through humor.
Yep, absolutely. So that's why I wanted to give Sherlock Holmes a little bit of homage here because I can remember as a kid. I can remember him doing this where he had to turn in and it broke his heart. And part of the Sherlock Holmes character was that he'd rather not socialize. It wasn't that he was so very arrogant or better than. It was a place he had to almost keep himself so he could deal with what today would probably be called, I don't know, name a social disease, whatever. Not to the point of being agoraphobic or anything, but just so freaking smart that his mind just moves on a different level, which is I think why he had to constantly stay busy. Like Steve said, I showed pictures in that little video
he was an
of his lab. Huh?
I think he was an Aspie or on the autism spectrum anyway.
But again, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. But he did have that awkwardness with women unless they were in need of his services as far as, unraveling a mystery or solving a crime or assisting them in some way, because God knows we're all so fragile back then, right? But it's just amazing the way he did that, and he still stuck up for, almost had that feeling when he had to do it, like when the Wolfman had to change into the Wolfman back then. Do you know what I mean? That total regret. But I'm going to do it, and the actors back then really pulled it off. I think that was really a good part of the character.
He was exceedingly interested in anything concerned with diagnosis, and never tired of trying to discover those little details that one must look for.
Social disease.
I remember he was greatly amused one day. A man came in, sat down. "Good morning, Pat," I said, for it was impossible not to see that he was an Irishman. "Good morning, Your Honor," replied the patient. "Well, and did you like your walk across the links today as you came in from the south side of the town?" said I. "Yes," replied Pat. Did Your Honor see me?" Well, even Doyle could not see how I came to know that. Absurdly simple as it was. On a showery day, such as it had been, the reddish clay at the bare part of the links adheres to the boot. Some tiny part of it is bound to remain. There's no such clay anywhere else round the town for miles. Well, that and one or two similar instances excited Doyle's interest and set him discovering for himself in the same direction, which, of course, was exactly what I wanted with him and all my other scholars. Recognition of...
How much of Bell was in Holmes, how much of Doyle himself, no one can say for sure. As a young doctor with few patients, Doyle found plenty of time to write. Years later, he told why he felt compelled to create Holmes.
I've had, of course, a scientific training.
Wow.
And I used occasionally to read detective stories. It always annoyed me how in the old-fashioned detective story, the detective always seemed to get at his results either by some sort of lucky chance or a fluke, or else it was quite unexplained how he got there. He got there, but he never gave an explanation.
In a number of films from the 30s, Arthur Wontner is Sherlock Holmes and Ian Fleming is Dr. Watson. Deductive reasoning is on full display.
You moved your shaving mirror over to the fireplace. Yes, that's right. My wife has a dressing table where we used to have... How do you know? My dear Watson, you're a man of precise habits and considerable regard for your personal appearance. As I observed that whilst the right-hand side of your face is closely shaved, the further we get to the left, the more careless your shaving appears. When we come to the angle of the jaw, where it is positively slovenly. I now deduce, therefore, that you placed your shaving mirror where the light strikes on the right side of the face. The bed must obviously be across the end of the room, therefore the fireplace is the only place left which could produce that result. Amazing.
That kind of stuff right there helped me be a better mom of boys. I'm just paying attention to your surroundings. I mean, if you think about it, Sherlock Holmes and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle writing it is almost teaching you how to be not just a better detective, but a better person at noting your surroundings and, the whole survival of human behavior. Because you've got somebody in there lying to you and you're looking around them and you're going, now hold on, because that doesn't match up to what I'm seeing, that kind of thing. It makes you pay attention to it. That's like, if you're a kid watching this, that's good training right there. You think about it, pay attention to me. I mean, he can tell by how he shaved and by how much of his beard was different on his face, by where he stood and did it, by the sun coming in the window and the fireplace light and all this. That's incredible. You know what I mean?
Elementary, my dear Watson. Elementary.
Yes, with Sir Henry as the victim.
I mean that we should see Mr. Holmes do his stuff.
It's a modern expression, Watson, signifying to display one's talent.
That's right. I want Mr. Holmes to tell us what Father's been doing for the last 20 years, just by looking at him.
Holmes is always observant, even of friends.
Great faith in my abilities, Miss Bansiger. but I'm afraid there's very little data. I merely observed that since we last met, your father has taken to billiards, and that he's recently played 100 up with Mr. Trevor.
Absolutely correct, Holmes, but how?
Oh, my dear fellow, it's simplicity itself. I observed that both you and Mr. Trevor have traces of blue chalk between the forefinger and thumb of your left hand, which was put there, obviously, to steady the cue.
There. I hope that satisfies you, Diana.
Where were you married, Mrs. Douglas?
In New York.
Ah, in America?
You know nothing of his life.
Holmes is not only observant, he is worldly wise.
Nothing at all.
That mark on his arm, do you know what that is?
No?
You never asked him.
Yes, I did once, but he refused to discuss it. So I never asked again.
You've no idea what it is?
None whatsoever. Can't you suggest anything?
Mrs. Douglas, I suggest that you tell me the truth.
Mr. Holmes!
You know perfectly well what that mark is. You couldn't possibly have lived in America without knowing.
All the reckoning with you, Moriarty.
In one of the films, our master detective's arch enemy, Professor Moriarty, is about to push Dr. Watson down an 80-foot abandoned elevator shaft.
Good Lord.
Very good. I will now remove the panel and wish you a swift journey.
Oh my goodness. Something tells me it ain't gonna happen.
Except you, my dear Watson, who I'm sure will be more comfortable with us. You must excuse me for trespassing on your private property. I've had the lift put in order again.
You clever...
No compliments, please.
Arrest you, Robert Moriarty. On what charge? Being concerned in the murder of the stable boy, Edward Hunter. Well, it's the most amazing case we've ever solved, Holmes.
Elementary, my dear Watson. Elementary.
Here he is again.
Most criminologists of today will tip their hats in gratitude to the legacy of Holmes and his creator.
Absolutely.
In fact, a member of the Sherlock Holmes Society is an official of Scotland Yard, Philip Dalton. Mr. Dalton kindly consented to escort us to a very special, exclusive place.
The game is afoot.
Behind a pub on an obscure street near Trafalgar Square, the Society has assembled a stirring tribute to the leading detective of all time.
Well, here
Yeah,
it is, the sitting room at 221B Baker Street. Left exactly as it was on the instructions of Mycroft Holmes, Sherlock's brother.
Now check it out. This is cool. This is the museum. Now, what I said in the little video we made and talking about the house, the famous address for Sherlock Holmes, the museum has that address. However, it's a fictional address and it was made up, but the town let them do this on the street and it would really be 229. So they make like it's a mystery, but kind of like the 13th floor, 12 to 14.
Baker Street.
Nothing to be touched.
Was it regulars that they call
Nothing has been. It's all here.
I think so.
With Persians.
Regulars or irregulars, I don't remember.
With some tobacco still in it.
The poker. It is tobacco.
But Sherlock Holmes nearly straightened.
Now,
the violin.
In the
it used to play
Robert
across his
Downey
knees.
Jr. movie, Sherlock would smoke opium, and then in the opium dreams, he would solve his mysteries that way sometimes.
Was that in any of the Doyle books, though?
I don't know if
because
there's any
again,
basis
back in the
that
day,
in the stories back in the day, that was a common treatment.
Do you know how many people in Congress did?
Get it from the apothecary.
Yeah. In the back in the old Continental Congress back in Philadelphia back in the day when they were doing all this stuff. Do you know how many of those guys were snorting coke? Do you know how many there are now? Things don't change, do they, Steve?
Gas jeans.
And drinking rum.
Patriotic VR picked out in bullet box.
Oh, wow.
And behind me is the bust of Sherlock Holmes that was the target for Colonel Sebastian Moran's air rifle. And you can still see the bullet hole. This room is, of course, a shrine.
At least they shot
and it's visited by pilgrims from all over the world. It's especially a shrine for the Sherlock Holmes Society of London.
I like that wallpaper.
If, in this room, you were to ask me, was Sherlock Holmes fact or fiction? I'd like to echo the reply given by our president, Lord Gorbu. who, when asked that question, said yes.
I don't know about you, but this guy freaks me out.
The claim that Sherlock Holmes did exist beyond the imagination of Conan Doyle may seem preposterous to many. But as we shall see, there is evidence to support this belief.
Oh, Leonard is his little element there, isn't he? Look at him. Look at him, Steve. Wait a minute. Wait. Go back. Oh, what happened? There he is. Oh, my God, not this guy again. He isn't great. Yeah. But there he is. Look at him.
Beyond the imagination of Conan Doyle may seem preposterous to many. But as we shall see, there is evidence to support this belief.
And he's reading it off a teleprompter.
The first clues to why Holmes may have been more than simply a fictional character may be found in Doyle's life itself. H.R.F. Keating is one of Doyle's leading biographers.
Oop, wait a minute.
But he did other things in many other
fields. Professor I had in college.
He was the man who introduced the ski to Switzerland. Before that, it had just been a way of getting about over the snow in Norway. He brought it to Switzerland and started the whole great skiing industry. It was like bringing the pumpkin to America. Then, in the 1914 war, he was the man responsible for the introduction of the modern military steel helmet. He carried out experiments himself with a rifle and proved that protection could be given against the modern bullet. At the same time, he insisted that the troops going over from England to France were equipped with inflatable life jackets, and they went to the British Navy as well.
He's an animated little fella, isn't he? Yeah.
Yep.
As significant as these accomplishments were, however, and knighthood would be his reward, what is little known is that Doyle was involved in many cases himself. In Search Of recreates one of them. Conan Doyle's secretary, Major Wood, was perhaps the prototype for Dr. Watson. One morning in 1906, he opened a letter which he thought would arouse Doyle's interest. It was from George Idalgi, an Anglo-Indian lawyer who, on weak circumstantial evidence, and possibly because of his ancestry,
this is mind-blowing,
had been sentenced to 7 years in prison, charged with slashing and maiming horses with a razor. After serving 3 of these 7 years, he was inexplicably released, but without a pardon. Now he wrote to Doyle, asking to clear his name.
Morning, Alfred. Arthur, there's a letter here I think you ought to see. It's from Mr. Idalgi, who, it appears, has been the butt of a gross miscarriage of justice.
Idalgi. Wasn't there an article in the Umpire last month?
Yes, there was. He sent it with his letter. It's amongst those.
Ah, yes, I remember. Extraordinary case. I'll have another look at it.
As I read, the unmistakable accent of truth forced...
Excuse me, Steve. Echo's asking this, and I think I remember. I'm no scholar on Sherlock. I learned stuff in the past couple of days. I had no idea.
I don't remember in the books, but
wasn't there heroin
Downey Jr.
involved?
did, but I don't know. You know, Robert Downey Jr. did that in real life too. So
right. I don't want to mix the. But I believe now. Can anybody in the chat answer this for sure? I don't want to put it out there if it isn't, but I know there was things with him with the opium and stuff like that. But then again, there was a lot of that opium den stuff going down. I mean, there was a lot of that. There was more like laudanum and stuff like that. But every doctor handed that out for everything.
Bayer manufactured heroin that you could get from your doctor.
Right. So I don't know.
It was a wonderful pain reliever.
What color to put on that, though?
A lot of World War I veterans that were addicted to it.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of
That's
like
true.
fentanyl.
But I don't know if it was more like a recreational thing or something that he took for an ailment and then just, became part of his life like so many people. Or, again, it has I guess none of it is good, but I think we have a tendency to put, say, if we found out a famous historical figure like someone of a Ben Franklin stature or Thomas Jefferson or something like that, was popping pills all day long, how much would it change what you thought about that person? Would we lean more towards, okay, wait a minute. He took it for, an ailment. Perfect example. Lincoln Lincoln was self-medicating with one of these compounds that he actually put together himself from advice from several different places. And one of the compounds within this was mercury. And he was taking, I think it was, I don't want to misquote, I think it was like 3 times what a human being should be able to take. But it's one of those things like arsenic. You can almost slowly, certain people can slowly build up a resistance to it. So when you hear that about Lincoln, do you think any less of the Gettysburg Address? You see what I'm saying? But if you were talking about somebody else, taking laudanum or opium or, I don't know. Did he do heroin? The Sherlock Holmes character, he did. He had there was something about it.
I did a little quick search. It does mention cocaine in the novels.
It does.
I don't know to what extent, but
let me see what Glenn said.
From 1887 to 1927, Conan Doyle devoted 56 short stories and 4 novels to the extraordinary investigations of Sherlock Holmes. Special passages from these works, gathered here in the form of long extracts, evoke the passion of the celebrated detective for cocaine and constitute rather generally an original sort of evidence on the emergence of drug addicts in Europe at the end of the 19th century. And that's from the National Library of Medicine. So
that's true, Glenn. A lot of things were used back in the day, but what I'm really kind of, I guess I'm saying is, it's funny how we look at things differently. Like say, what kind of a witness could he be? Why would you believe him? He's just a junkie off the street. Don't tell me people haven't said that, right? But then you look at somebody else that might be a dignitary or something else and will allow it, like JFK taking so many pain meds for his back, and but he heard it in the war, so it's okay. And then you think about him sitting behind the Resolute desk, and you've got missiles in Cuba, or people trying to put missiles in Cuba, and all of these things going on and coming close to all kinds of mess. And then you think that he's on these drugs. See, that everything, no matter how, depending on your vantage point, it changes how we look at it, does it not?
Kennedy used to get special injections from his doctor.
Absolutely.
And he would stay up around the
clock. So did Hitler.
On stuff. There you go. So it was probably amphetamine or something.
So did FDR. I mean, gosh, name one that hasn't. You know what I mean? Or something like that. I mean, it's rare. I'm sure there are, but I mean, I remember back in the 70s. God, every time Nixon blew his nose, you heard from his medical doctor. We gave him a B12 shot today, for the president, and Ford fell down. We gave him a mild Bengay rub on his ankle.
I think Jerry was over sedated, if anything.
Yeah. An elastic bandage, you really would. Now it's just like, they're snorting coke off the Resolute desk and banging hookers in the Oval Office. It's insanity, Tell me I'm lying. Prove me wrong with science.
itself upon my attention, and I realized that I was in the presence of an appalling tragedy, and that I was called upon to do what I could to set it right. I got other papers in the case, went up to Staffordshire, saw the family, and went over the scene of the crime. Between Ed Alge's house and the place where the final mutilation was committed lay the full breadth of the London and North Western Railway, an expanse of rails, wires, and other obstacles, with hedges to be forced on either side, so that I, a strong and active man, in broad daylight, found it a hard matter to pass. Not until I had examined every fact thoroughly from every angle did I arrange to question Ed Alge. The meeting took place at my hotel. I had been delayed, and he was passing the time by reading the paper. I recognized my man by his dark face, so I stood and observed him. Mr. Adalji, I presume.
Sir Arthur.
Do you suffer from astigmatic myopia?
This is indeed an honor.
Look, don't you wear glasses?
Never have, Sir Arthur. They can't fit me glasses that are any use. I have been to 2 ophthalmic surgeons, and both...
The idea of such a man scouring the fields at night and assaulting animals while avoiding the watchful police was ludicrous to anyone who can imagine what the world looks like to eyes with myopia of 8 diopters. So bad was his defense in his trial that no mention, as far as I could ascertain, was ever made of the fact that the man was practically blind.
Finally,
Dude did 3 years. 3 years he did. Nobody even said he was blind. He could have never done the crime they were accusing him of. He couldn't see.
Doyle wrote a series of articles in the Daily Telegraph. They provoked a public outcry, and Doyle was invited to a meeting with the Home Secretary. Not satisfied with simply clearing Adalji's name, Doyle now set out to discover the identity of the real slasher. Before long, he began receiving threatening letters with a seaport postmark, providing him with the clues he needed. Clearly, the letters were written by a disturbed, perhaps pathological man who also despised foreigners. Doyle then traced Adalji's history from the time of the crimes backwards, all the way to Adalji's grammar school. Had there been a fellow student with a vicious nature, a hatred against foreigners, and a grudge against Adalji himself, and who subsequently went to sea? There had. Doyle discovered his present whereabouts and learned he had quit the sea at the time the slashings began. He had been trained in a slaughterhouse, and he showed signs of periodic insanity. Doyle even got hold of a long horse lancet with which...
I'm getting that damn t-shirt. Periodic insanity. Forewarned.
the slashings had undoubtedly been committed. The Law Society readmitted Adalji to the role of solicitors. Although the Home Office granted Adalji his pardon, they wouldn't agree to any compensation. However, the case in due course paved the way for establishing a court of criminal appeal. And this was only one of the good many real-life cases in which Doyle achieved success. Sherlock Holmes and his creator were inseparably linked. In his autobiography, Doyle admitted,
"A man cannot spin a character out of his own inner consciousness and make it really lifelike unless he has some of that character within him."
The horse-drawn carriages of 1895 may have disappeared, but the living presence of Sherlock Holmes of Baker Street persists to this day. Nearly 100 years after A Study in Scarlet, letters still come into that address at 221B Baker Street, now the offices of an insurance company who reply on Sherlock Holmes' behalf.
And this one's from San Diego, California. It's addressed to Mr. Sherlock Holmes or Dr. John Watson, M.D.
For those who believe Sherlock Holmes was only a figment of a writer's imagination, In Search of humbly submits its deduction that he did, in a very real way, exist.
That last little look right there, that last little twitch of his nose, do you see it? It's kind of like him saying, I got him all, kind of thing. Yeah. Look at that last little bit. Right about here. Here it comes. Right here. Got them all. It's so much, man. So there it is. I thought that was a really interesting take. What do you think, Steve?
Yep, I've never heard it put quite like that before.
What a trip. And very interesting characters telling the story. Again, I guess if I'm looking at Sherlock Holmes, I wanted to stop it along the way. I know it's irritating that way, but it's important. Why am I showing this to you? Why am I stopping here? And is it paranormal? Is it not? Well, it's mysterious, but it's also got that tulpa kind of um giving life out of somebody else's mind,
When
putting
a fictional character
words
becomes that
on
real that
paper.
people still write letters to them.
That's
people wrote
it might
letters
not
to
be
the people on
paranormal, it's
Gilligan's
damn well
Island
something.
too, but that's apples and oranges.
But like I said, yeah, it's not necessarily paranormal or metaphysical or anything like that, but it's definitely something, and it's kind of neat when you look at something like this and you think, how many characters have we conjured up out of thin air like that, and how many minds went into it? Like when we talked about Dracula and how it's kind of spider webbed out in a couple of different directions, and culture and narrative, and of course decades time has a lot to do with what they're focused on. We watched Dracula come out of Bram Stoker's book as this character. Everything that Dracula still has shadows of came from that, and that came from a combination of Bram Stoker's world, a couple of short stories, and put things together. So that was the first time you heard of Dracula also becoming a bat, but a wolf. you know and some stories carry that on and some don't, and then you'll see it jump a century and then it's back in there again, in another way, but this time it's a sexy vampire with this romantic kind of twinkly thing going on, or and vampires go from the monster coming out of the closet or coming in the window to the cute guy you met at the working on the summer break at the beach, whatever. It's just weird how everything changes. But Sherlock Holmes, whether it's Basil Rathbone or the words on paper, the mysteries and things like that, even though Robert Downey Jr.'s character, or Fisticup Bumpty Bunch, whatever his name is, his character, the way he portrays Holmes, might have his own flavor added to it, but the bones are still there. You know, you have to have that aloof kind of air, as well as the way he thinks, and a lot of face acting. I know there's got to be another word for that. You're acting with your face. It's an incredible way a lot of actors can't do. I guess that's my thoughts on it. I thought it was a really interesting way of looking at it, and and thinking how much also can Holmes teach us now about deductive reasoning and paying attention and observing your area and what's around you. Situational awareness, right?
Exactly.
Parents do it. Gosh, some of us are so good at it. We're just like, our peripheral vision got so good. I swear, at least one of my children, for the better part of their childhood, was convinced I had eyes behind my head. I
My
almost
mother
saw the
was like
moment
that.
he
I could
realized
be
I
on the
didn't.
other end of the house doing something I wasn't supposed to, and she had the spider senses or whatever. What are you
And I
doing
think
in
that's
there?
there's a
And
little
I'd
Sherlock in
stop.
all of us.
Nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a little Sherlock in all of us that like to look at mysteries and like to solve puzzles and like to look at true crime and try to sort it out, not for the as so much for the gore and and the havoc and the chaos of the whole thing, but to be able to look into a true crime, or a really especially horrific part of history, and be able to walk into that kind of darkness only for I know it sounds cold, the educational purpose of it, because I think we use it more like if we understand it more, maybe we could know how to prevent it. So, especially light workers do this because you have to, I wouldn't say understand the darkness, but by God, if you're fighting something, know the enemy, right?
You know your enemy. You have to know what you're fighting before you can fight it.
That's War 101, right? Right? You got to know your enemy, who you're fighting. What's their weaknesses?
Art of War by Sun Tzu or whatever, that's in there.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love Sun Tzu. And again, do you dispel yourself? Understand, when they're busy wrecking themselves, you don't get in their way. Let them do it. Appear weak when you're strong. All these things. So last night was a really good show. If you didn't catch it last night, there was a lot that went on, and I wanted to add this part. If you were here last night, you understand what I was saying about the whiskey, the offering of whiskey and tobacco and things like that. Not only because it's more natural, like the Irish whiskey or whatever, it's also to keep something busy and distracted and weakened. So then very smart people can go in and help anything that might need help. And then just go, okay, we're good. And then finish what you just do what you promised you would do, leaving the rocks, and get out of there, and then carry on outside of that area. And you're done. You're finished. You got to know when to battle, and you got to understand your enemy or who you're fighting, or who you're up against, or who's up against you, who's fighting you. So that's what was going on last night, but we didn't want to say. So if you know, if you understand, you understand. If you saw it, you understand what I'm saying. That's the extra part to it. You try to help things in that situation, but again, there's no use in battling something that's not gonna, is the battle worth it? Right? There you go. They're so bright. This is going to be so much fun. Let's talk a little before we leave, Steve, unless you had something else about Sherlock, about the nightmares of the Round Table. So now we have the belief hole.
Last time I looked,
a couple of brothers.
One away. We're at 12,999 subscribers. So if one of you that's not subscribed,
one more.
Over and subscribe to 13 past midnight, we'll hit that milestone, and then it's on the table. We just have to arrange everything.
Thank you.
But the brothers from the Belief Hole are going to be there. Cisco's going to be there. Brian said he'd be there.
The concept of it, though.
I think Cathita's going to come on and tell one of her stories.
So this is the deal. This is the way I see it. This is my proposal, if nobody has thought of this. The way I see this would be a marathon. Pick a night. And we sit and we go around robin, and just like I forget that game that you play. It's almost like, it's kind of like Duck Duck Go, but it's like as soon as the person is done, you don't miss a beat. Next person's up. They have to come up with a
StreamYard, you can get up to 10
scary
on the screen. So
yep, and then that person's done the next, and when you're done, you have to tap out and go, I'm out of stories. And we'll see how I don't know if we can stay on air long enough to wear down some of the people I know that are going to be around that table.
Yeah, we'll have to limit you to one story per revolution.
Per revolution, yeah, one story at a time. When that person's done, the next person picks up.
The next person takes right off.
And if you miss a beat, you can pass and wait till it go around again. But you only get like so many passes. We'll get somebody to sort this and just put it all down. I think it'll be fun, a nice Zoom round robin. What do you think, Bri? So it goes around, you can tap out and go, you know what? I tap out. I'm good. I'm out of stories. So I believe that in some cases, no names being mentioned, but I think some people might have a little bit of ammo in their box for this. So who's to say? There's always surprises, right? You know, I feel confident I can hang for a while. What do you guys think? You all in, Sir Brian? Brian says he's all in. He's laughing his ass off. I think that would be wonderful. Like a duck, duck, go kind of, Nightmares of the Round Table. The scariest stories that you got will come in hot. Bring them on, and then go around and, when it's your turn, tell a story.
True stories, allegedly true stories, no creepypasta or any of that crap.
Nope.
Something that either happened to you or that you know
100%.
Secondhand. Yeah.
100%. I agree. Agreed. Throw that at the brothers and see if they agree with that. If they're comfortable with those. Those are loose. Kind of, an outline of a circle. I just think it would be really cool. I mean, people have done it with, all kinds of different ways, but I just think that'd be really neat to, and the reason I say the purpose of going around and keeping it fast is to keep that cadence and that pace going, because some of them might be very short but scary. Some things can be horrifying, and very short, and some can be a little longer, and I think that's fine, as long as once that person's done and that, of whatever that punchline or that finish is, you go to the next story, and that person tells it. Because I think if we do it that way, little things like that's going to spark the next story too, because it'll remind people I heard this one story and yada yada,
And also, sometimes when you hear a story, it'll jog your memory and you'll think of a similar or a different story.
100%. That's what I mean. Yep. I think that would be great. I think it'd be fun. And we'll see how far we can go. I'm not doing shots with you, Bowden.
No.
I'm not doing shots with you.
So
I'm doing push-ups for this. Listen, this is serious. This is spooky season. This is, like a spooky season game. If we play our cards right, we could make this an annual thing of going around. And, also it'd be good for us because we'll collect more stories.
Oh, wow. We just passed it. We're at 13,002. So thanks to the three people that
I don't have any music prepared. I'm sorry. I should have had confetti or something. I should have had something. Oh my gosh, I'm so unprepared. But I think that'll be great. We can stream it on all the channels if we want, and we can do whatever, and anybody else can add whatever. I'm ready. I'm already doing push-ups for it. I'm doing jumping jacks. I want to hang in there at least.
Night watchers, I appreciate that. They got a good show over there.
I want to win one for the old gals, the old broads. The spooky broads. I want to, So, but anyhow, I think it'll be
D-Rock, fun. I didn't say hi to you guys.
Hey, D-Rock, how you doing? What's he saying? Oh, yeah, Kathita, thank you so much. She's something else. She's one of our wonderful mods. Yeah. Thank you to everybody out there and all the gatekeepers.
Mini marathon, and she messaged back. I've only shared it in 22 groups so far, but I'm going back in.
I'm going back in.
She's a machine. Kathita, you're a machine.
You gotta love it.
You.
You gotta love it. The intestinal fortitude of a mod. It's amazing. I'm going back in. You gotta love it. All right, guys, I'll tell you what.
Steve, of a cockroach, and I mean that in a good way.
In a good way to share. And the forever youth powers. Gosh, have you seen Cher lately? She's getting younger. I swear to God, she is. What is she doing?
I saw a news article about her today. She said the secret to looking young is that she wears jeans and keeps her hair long. And she left out the part about all the augmentation she's had.
What's she taking? Yeah. What is she soaking in? I don't want to know. I was just thinking, we just did that whole thing on vampires. I was thinking of Bathory, and when I was doing it, I was thinking, man, I wonder if that's why we call it baths. Because you're not even thinking sometimes when you're putting these things together. And I was just, right away, I went and got a picture of a really cool, a bubble bath kind of old Western thing. And then you go to think about it, and Vixen Doe jumped in the comments and told me, Romans took baths. Go ahead, you can have a bath and not think about that twisted bitch. Because I was thinking, man, and now I'm stuck on the irony of her damn name, because she's the one that used to bathe in the blood of virgins. Well, poor virgins, when she started killing the rich ones, that's when they started paying attention. Isn't that awful? Elizabeth Bathory. You know the story. So what are you doing this week, Steve?
Got more stuff coming up on 13 Past Midnight, and Among the Missing. Nicole's been busy writing scripts, so she wrote 3 one day last week.
Wow. It's looking good over there, man.
Busy. And we're doing the weekend matinees again on 13 Past Midnight every Saturday and Sunday through September and October. Some So Bad It's Good movie over there. Some of them are just bad, but some of them are so bad they're good.
Yeah.
Had this last weekend, had Horrors of Spider Island, which was as terrible as it sounds.
That sounds horror. That sounds like a horror.
Did the Norless Tapes, which was a pilot for a show on NBC from Dan Curtis Productions, same guy that did Dark Shadows. And that was later reworked into Kolchak, the Night Stalker. Got the pilot for that coming up this Saturday with Darren McGavin.
Night Stalker. You can't beat Kolchak, you know.
He was based on John Keel. Not a lot of people know that, but he
was
based on an actual person.
Yep. And I'll tell you what, he wasn't he part of that, I can't remember whether it was a Friday night or a Saturday night. It could have been a Sunday. I don't think it was, because a Sunday was Disney and Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. So I think it was a Saturday, but you might get Columbo.
While Stan goes and tickles the bear in the ass with a feather.
Yeah, but it was one of those where you either got McMillan and Wife, or you got Kolchak, you got Cannon, or Mannix.
NBC Mystery Theater, something. NBC Mystery.
Wasn't he part of that though?
Yeah, I don't know if
Kolchak
was ever part of that. I think he was a standalone.
Was
he? Yeah,
he?
you had McMillan and Wife, you had McLeod, you had Columbo. Seems like there was another one in there, Barnaby Jones or Cannon or one of those too.
Barnaby Jones. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, they never did it, but the finale of Barnaby Jones was going to be he went to Beverly Hills looking for a missing millionaire who was Jed Clampett.
Really?
Would that not have been perfect? But they never filmed it.
Oh shoot. That would have been perfect. Absolutely. All right, guys, I'm finding something cool to play on the way out here. Get you guys smiling before you leave. Let's see. What do we got? It's been great. Now, I'm glad Sherlock Holmes has been out there through pretty much my whole life. I mean, everybody knew. You know, I know my sons really enjoyed the mysteries and all that. But again, I think the character was interwoven.
As children, it taught us deductive reasoning.
Absolutely. And to pay attention. And
people don't have that anymore.
To stand up for the law and justice.
Period, for the most part.
Yep. You know, for law, justice. And he'd even turn in the woman and it broke his heart, but he still did it in a stoic way because it was the right thing to do. It was elementary, my dear Watson. I love you, Steve. Thanks for being here with me on Monday Madness. Thanks to all the chat. Thanks to everybody on your way out. If you would give it a thumbs up, you can always leave super chats in the video if you like the stuff that we talked about tonight. We'll see you next Sunday, and we'll put out there what it's going to be. I don't want to quote wrong there, but it's been lovely having you here in the chat tonight. Thanks for all the insight.
Glad to see everybody. And I've got new signed books in my Etsy shop, so go take a look over there if you've been
go
waiting
check
for
it
me
out,
to
guys.
Replenish those. I've got 3 books over there now that I've got copies of. More on the way.
Excellent. Love you, my friend. Till next time. Hi, Nick. Hi, Mulder. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Thanks again.